Looking for a car you can count on? At AutoMasters, we offer a hand-picked selection of used and certified pre-owned vehicles priced right and ready to drive. With easy financing and expert service, AutoMasters is your trusted dealership from test drive to keys in hand. AutoMasters, driven by trust, powered by service. Visit our website at automasters06.com or stop by today. And oh yeah, tell them Sonia sent you.
She say, sports. She say, sports. She say, sports. She say, sports.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia and welcome back to She Say Sports. Please welcome athletes' right advocate, NIL Brand Development Specialist, and founder of Sports Mom University, Jamesetta Cleveland.
Hi there. Thanks for having me.
Hi, Jamesetta. I'm glad to have you here today. Thank you so much for joining us. But before we get started, I have to ask, because your name is a very special name, Jamesetta. Are you named after your father or Etta James or both or?
Family member. A family member.
Family member. Wow. Yeah. It's a beautiful name. I've never heard. I was like, is that for Etta James or her dad or? Okay.
That's, I goes, my mom is from the South. My family's Southern. And in our family, we have a tradition of naming people after family members. So I'm named after a family member.
Well, I'm from the South, deep South, Mississippi, and my youngest niece is named after me. I'm Sonia Annette. She's Sonia Maria. So yeah, we do that as well.
So that's a commonality. My family's from Mississippi too.
What part?
So we're everywhere because we've been there so long. But my mom specifically is from a small town called Crenshaw in Panola County. It is near, it's really small, and if you blink, you will miss it. 90% of the people there are related to me, either by blood or by marriage. But most people have heard of the big city of Senatobia or the big city of Batesville or Oxford. It's in that general area.
Okay, so it's up north. I have heard of all three of those cities. Okay. Wow. Small world. Very, very small world. Well, Jamesetta, we're gonna just get right into it. You know, you're a little sip girl, so you family. But you are a proclaimed Army brat and a mom of 3 multi-sports athletes. Tell us a little bit about, well, especially since I want to know a little bit about you. Tell us about you being an Army brat and how that, where did you end up and all that good stuff. And then tell me about your 3 athletes and the sports they played.
So my family has a military tradition that goes back to the Korean War. So I have a plethora of people in my family that serve, and my mom and dad both were in the military. They were in the Army. So I've lived a lot of places. I tell people I'm probably the only person they know that attended 3 different schools on 2 different continents in the same school year. So we moved around a lot, but we actually came back to the U.S. in 1991. So I've been in the U.S. since 1991. Before that, we were in Germany. And so I grew up around sports. My family, I grew up with a bunch of Dallas Cowboy fans. They're still Dallas Cowboy fans. They've branched off a little bit. We got a couple Steelers fans around here. But I always grew up around sports. Some of my earliest memories are watching my uncles play softball. And so when I got married, I'm in Tennessee now. This is the longest I've ever lived in one place. I've been here over 20 years, and I decided to raise my family here. But we got into sports because I said my kids wouldn't be couch potatoes. I wanted them to be active, and so for me, it was the sports is a way to be active. And I was going through a divorce and I wanted them to be around positive Black male role models. And one of the easiest places to find positive Black male role models is in sports. It's unfortunately, we don't have a lot of Black male teachers, but you can find a lot of coaches. And so we started off in sports, just, hey, I want you to see something different than what saw in our marriage. And I also wanted them to move.
Gotcha. You, because that's what you did. You moved around, so you wanted them to experience life in different. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, no, I mean not move physically,
Oh,
move
move their bodies.
bodies. We stayed
Gotcha.
here.
Okay.
This is the longest place. I chose Nashville because I had moved so much, and I
Mhm.
wanted, like, I didn't have the experience of having, like, I do have childhood friends, but I didn't have the experience of saying I went to elementary school, middle school, high school. I wanted my kids to have a unique experience like that. And so when I chose Nashville, what I liked about here is there were different cultures so that they would be
Mhm.
exposed to different languages. There was
Gotcha.
athletics, have a very good, like some of the top colleges in the world are here in Nashville. And there's a lot of culture. You can do, like, there's the frisk, we have the arts. So I wanted them to be exposed to lots of different influences. And at the time, it was much smaller than it is now. We're booming. So if you're thinking about moving to Nashville, we're full. But
Yeah, I love Nashville. You're right.
listen, we're full. So I picked Nashville just because it would give my kids, for me, a more rounded, more well-rounded background. And really, we got into sports because I wanted them to move physically.
Gotcha.
No intentions of sports taking me and us where it did. It was just initially, I want to move and have good black male role models.
I love it. I love it. So, what sports did your children play? Are they all boys or?
I have two girls and a boy. So I have it, for me, it's girl, boy, girl. And they all ran track. They did a plethora of events from, like, the shot put to the hurdles to 800, a plethora of events in track.
Right.
They all played basketball. Um, I drew the line at wrestling. We didn't do. I was not prepared. I went to a wrestling match and I was like, ooh, I don't know if I could do this. But we did soccer, we did football,
Wow.
cheerleading. We played a lot of sports, and they had to do something artistic as well. So, like, they weren't just doing sports; they had to, paint or be in the choir. They had to do something artistic as well. So we just did a lot of sports, and they ended up being good at them.
Great mom. That's what's up. I love that. I mean, because especially, well, 91 kids were still kind of going outside, but not as much as we were when we were growing up. But you definitely want them to stimulate their minds outside of video games and television shows and all of that. So great job. Great job, mom. And it paid off because it took you to a whole different avenue, a whole different avenue. So, Jamesetta, you, as I mentioned earlier, you are an athlete's right advocate. Can you share a pivotal moment that shaped your views on athlete advocacy?
Yes, I was here in Nashville, actually.
Mhm.
So my cousin Ruben Mays Sr. played football at the time for the University of Tennessee, and when he started playing, that's when I really started to understand that, like, this is like a business. This is not what I thought.
Mhm.
And typically, the very last game of the season, Tennessee plays Vanderbilt, and they alternate between playing here in Nashville or playing in Knoxville. And this particular
Right.
year, they played in Nashville, and I waited, like, they don't have like a special family session. So me and my kids, we were like waiting after the end of the game because this was our opportunity to see my cousin Ruben. And I will never forget this older gentleman and his wife. They pushed us out of the way and they said, we want him to sign it was like a really thick, it wasn't quite a program, but they used to sell a magazine and they had a breakdown of all the UT players and all the little things. And so he pushed us out of the way and he said, you get to see him all the time. We only get to see him now. And so we need to be able to talk to him and have him sign our stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, like, one, you're very wrong. We don't get to see him all the time. And I
But that's
felt
not even the point. How dare you? How dare
I
you?
that was my first very rude introduction to the fact that people really do see athletes as commodities.
Yep.
I was so startled. Like that, I would never think to just push somebody out of the way and say, let me
Ever.
just I was like, and he was older, like gray hair, older, like not, he wasn't young. I was very appalled, and I had my kids. So I was like, but wait. And so that was my really startling moment to say, hey, people don't see my cousin as human. They see
Mhm.
him as entertainment commodity. And so my eyes just got open in that moment, and it just continued to grow. And it's like, okay, people in this country and in other places don't view athletes as fully human. They view them as entertainment,
Mm.
which is very dehumanizing. And
Yep.
so to me, they're babies. They may be 23, 24. I mean, right now they're a little bit older because they're super seniors, but they're still babies. And
Mhm.
I'm like, oh, someone has to go out there and protect the babies because this is not a good thing.
It's really not. And that's why I think you made a very valid point. They don't see them as humans. So when they start talking um, about things that's going on, civil unrest and standing up for certain rights, they get angry and they was like, just play ball. We don't want to hear that. Who asked you to say that? So that's crazy. I can't. Wow, you handled that very well. Because I can't. Well, I don't know how it would. I don't know because it's never happened to me. So I'm flabbergasted. Wow. So what does athlete empowerment mean to you, Jamesetta?
For me, it means equipping athletes with knowledge
Hmm.
of who they are outside of being athletes.
Hmm.
I play in a very unsexy space because most athletes don't understand who they are or how they
Right.
prefer to show up in the world. So one, it's bringing awareness to so that they understand who they are in terms of you were created to do something and it has nothing to do with ball. I would tell my son all the time, uh, no one is going to know Jesus because of the way that you score a touchdown. Like
Nope.
that's just not, there's not going to look at you and say, man, that was the best tackle ever. So you know what? I want to sit down and study the Bible because of that tackle. So
Right.
helping them understand, one, who are you? And you are divinely created to do something, and that something isn't necessarily sports,
Yeah.
but you can you can understand that athletics can be leverage. It can create opportunities. It can give you a platform. So for me, true athlete empowerment, it comes with awareness and knowledge of the system that has been designed around athletes and teaching them how to navigate in the system. I would say that 99.9% of athletes, even today, do not understand how much power that they wield within the system of athletics.
And I kind of want to wait to bring that up because I'm going to talk about that portion. But I got to say this right here, since you're talking about that. Do you think because of the NIL deal that this has given athletes, they understand their empowerment now? Do they understand it more so now, or there's still room to grow?
They understand it even less because honestly, we don't have a
Hmm.
system of true NIL. What we have, I'll say this, and I'll scream this as long as what people understood is they understood inducements and pay for play. They understood, hey, I'm going to have an athlete. I'm going to give them some money to play for my school, or I'm going to give them some money for an athletic metric, or
Hmm.
this athlete has a really great reputation because of how they play. So I'm going to use that athlete's influence to sell a product. Or so that is what they understood. But that is not name, image, and likeness. Like when I tell people, hey, the Gerber baby has NIL, they're like, for real?
Hmm.
Yeah.
It
So
does.
truly understanding what I call the model of influence and how to use your influence in a way that is completely separate from how you play, but understanding that your ability to play does give you more opportunities for a bigger platform. No
Mhm.
one, I won't say no one, but very few athletes and even educators and coaches understand what NIL truly is.
Mhm.
So they're
Wow.
not using their opportunities. They're not more powerful. Now, can they command more money? In some instances, when you
Mhm.
go from zero to a dollar, you command more money. So yeah, they're getting paid more, but they don't understand how to use leverage.
They just understand the empowerment of the money part, not the leverage.
Yep.
Awesome, awesome. So Jamesetta, sports is taking you. I mean, I'm impressed when I read your bio. I'm very, very impressed. What inspired you to start Sports Mom University, and why did you use that name? Come up with that name.
So my consulting firm is really it's a reflection of my journey with my children.
Mhm.
I knew that I was not raising athletes. They have to be disciples. If you don't make disciples while you're on this earth, you really haven't accomplished anything. But I had these kids that were really talented at sports. And so very few people understood when I would say, well, they can stop playing at any time. I don't care. That's not what it's all about. So I was looking for the place. Where do you go if you're a parent and you want to raise a whole person, not just an athlete? Where do you go if you have a kid that's immensely talented, but maybe they don't need to go to the league? Maybe they're just playing because they want to play. And maybe their job isn't to take care of the family, because that's not biblically sound. The Bible says very clearly that a righteous man leaves a heritage to his children. So like, we're not going to be out of alignment with God's word. And
Right.
so along the way, as I was looking for my place that trains parents, I was also, if you stick around, you'll know that I collect people and I'm curious. I want to know all the things. And football is just one of my jams. So I would be the mom down at the ball field explaining to the other moms what's going on. And I realized that I actually don't want to do that. I want to watch the game. And so I would take them that I knew that had questions, and I would take the people that I collected that had answers to questions. And along the way, like every once in a while, I do these events where we could come and get our questions answered. And I said, it's Sports Mom University. That's what I called it. And then a few years ago, actually in 2019, when my son graduated from the Air Force Academy, I took a sabbatical and I called it my adventure year. And I said, well, for 1 year, I'm never going to set an alarm, and I'm only going to do things that make me happy. And one of the things I did was an event called High School Football Mom 101, and people showed up. And after that event, someone said, business is having something that people will pay for. And you should really pray about this little thing that you're doing, educating moms. Pray and see if that's the thing that God put you on the earth to do. And so I prayed, and I'm still praying, and I'm like, okay, God, this is our thing. This is what we're going to do. And so what I have done over the past 4 to 5 years, is really create what I wish I had when I was going through the process with my kids. A place where your mom, you're going to come and learn how to raise an athlete. Yes, we're going to talk recruiting. Yes, we're going to talk going pro. Yes, we're going to talk NIL. We're going to talk the things, but at its core, you are not going to lose your son or daughter. You're going to figure out who you are as a person, and you're going to play in that really unsexy space to help your child realize who he or she is. And it has nothing to do with sports. So I'm here because I built what I wish I had when I was going through the recruiting process with my kids.
Wow. I love it. What's interesting, and my last guest that was on the show, Jimmy L. Lucas. I don't know if you've ever heard of him, but he has a podcast as well as a foundation called Discipleship Hoops, and he has a book called Beyond the Court, and bringing faith in sports together. I really want y'all to talk.
Okay, so you'll have to connect us, because
Absolutely. I can't believe, I'm like, this is a segue from what we just talked about. I'm like, oh my gosh. So this is, y'all definitely have to talk. So Jamesetta, what need or gap did you see in the youth sports world that this platform addresses?
Really, we don't have educated parents. Parents are the problem. Look, I love y'all. If you listen, whether you listen to this live or on the replay, I love you. I was you. Lost, confused. I just knew I wanted to, raise kids who actually didn't have to go to therapy because they had to be raised by me. And so even right now, The gap is people who really truly come in and educate parents. And I don't mean just educate them on one thing.
Mhm.
People who truly understand the population that they serve, and then they create curriculum or answer questions or create a space where they are educating parents on not the raising of an athlete, but raising of a kid who happens to be good at their sport or not so good, because sometimes they're not.
Wow. Interesting. That's amazing. Yeah, that's interesting. So, and this kind of almost is a little bit the same, but not really. How has your personal experiences as a sports mom shaped the vision of the organization? And how has SMU helped other sports moms handle the business side of sports?
So one of the things that I did understand
Mhm.
um, was that most parents do not believe that they're in a business when they play with athletes.
And they are.
Only only the parents that go pro really say, "Oh, we're in a business," and you are way too late. If your child is going pro, playing their sport professionally, you do not, you've missed a lot of years
Mhm.
to understand that all the time you were in a business. And one of the things that is intrinsic in the athletic process is separating parents or people who genuinely love athletes from the athlete. The
Mm.
system is designed to drive a wedge between parents and athletes. And so one of the things that I understood is that there is a wedge. Even now, if you go out in the world, you have people who say, and this isn't unique to sports, but I see it a lot more in sports. Why does
Mm.
my adult child not talk to me? Why does
Mm.
kid, why did they go to college? And I know they got stuff happening, but why am I not the person that they pick up the phone and call when things are going wrong or when things are going right? Why does my kid think it's acceptable to go 7 days without talking to me? Like, really, like, understanding that we lose our kids in the
Mhm.
sports process and it's a business, and business never cares about the raw materials that are used to actually create the product. That is what
Right.
shapes the way that I actually do business and the way that I've created my consulting firm, because I'm probably one of the very few people that look at moms and say, if you're not careful, if you don't learn how to manage your child, if you're not willing to look stupid in your quest for knowledge, you're going to lose that kid. You're going to,
Mm.
and sometimes you won't be able to get them back. So I would say I run a community. So I have my consulting firm.
Mhm.
I run a community of sports families. There's multiple. There are a little under 20,000 sports families in the community, the online community that I serve. They play all sports and they are at all ages from middle school to the pros. And every day I'm dropping some kind of gem. We talked last week about, it's about to be football camp season.
Yeah.
Before you get in the car, before you take book a flight to UCLA or Alabama, one of the things you want to know is, are you a hometown hero? If you filled your tank if you had a tank full of gas, does every coach at every level in your state actually know your child exists? We had a lot of conversations around that. And then this week, our main topic of conversation in the communities is going to be the live period, because for basketball, the live period is happening. So what do you do before you actually hit the road? And so we have a lot of uncomfortable conversations in my
Mhm.
community, but it's needful because sometimes in the world of sports, like, you have all these thousands of people who are trying to use sports to get their college paid for their kids. But really, if you just do your math, you have the money for college right now. You're just spending it on camps and tournaments
Mm.
and so telling them that and doing the math and showing, I would say I am not the place to come if you want to be coddled as a parent. And so,
Right.
but as a result, I get moms all the time who tell me that I've saved them money, I've saved them time, I've allowed them to even This is really sensitive. Sometimes you have really elite athletes who are very good at their sport and they shouldn't play it because from a mental health perspective, they don't want to really
Mm,
play. They're just
gotcha.
playing because someone has told them, well, you're going to be the financial savior of the family. And that is not a good reason to play.
Right.
And so I call it elite athletes who need to retire. And having that conversation in my community
Mhm.
consistently. Oftentimes, moms tell me that I'm the only person that has actually told them to start looking at their child and understanding if they really truly want to play or
Mhm.
if they're just good and they believe that they have to be the family savior. So we have a lot of conversations, and I've grown to serve a lot of people, and they tell me all the time that just how God works it out. I give them exactly what they need when they need it.
Wow. I was thinking when you mentioned that some of the players, they don't talk to their mom for 7 days. And I instantly, I don't know why I thought about Tasha Mack. I don't know if you ever watched the game. Her son
Mhm.
played. Tasha Mack engrossed herself into the game of football. Um, Later on, becoming a agent, and her son's agent, and she played a very pivotal part in her intricate part in her son's game. Do you have mothers like that become a Tasha Mack?
I was a
Um,
My kid didn't play
Really?
professionally, but from a collegiate perspective, yeah. If I do what I do, if you listen and do what I tell you to do,
Mhm.
you're going to be. They call it, I guess, a momager.
Mhm.
But you're going to be able to manage your kid, and this
Mhm.
is why. So when I was in corporate America, I was a project manager, and then I was a program manager. And one
Gotcha.
of the things that corporate America app teaches you to understand is, this capability that we need, can we build this internally? Or
Mhm.
do we buy it from somebody? And if we have to buy it from somebody or if we have to build it, what systems do I need to put in place to audit it to make sure it's a good job? So I
Mhm.
have a friend, his name is Lamont Ramsey, and his son, Jalen Ramsey, plays for the Miami Dolphins.
Mhm.
Phenomenal football player. And I will never forget many years ago when I was like going through it, Lamont was like, Jamesetta, get it together. You've given birth to 3 businesses. You actually are in business. You do HR. He was like kind of breaking down all the aspects of
Yeah.
raising a business. And so I was like, you know what? That's right. That has stuck with me for over a decade. And so I want moms to understand, here are the capabilities. Here's where you're going to get exploited. You're going to get exploited in nonprofit work and community work
Mhm.
because everybody's good. That's an easy in to get
Mhm.
into an athlete's pocket. Okay. So when that happens, do you have enough knowledge or do you have the right network so that you can always be auditing? What am I building here? The business that I'm running of my child, are we running this business correctly? Can I build this or do I have to buy it? And if I have to buy it from someone, obviously, like, if they're not an agent, they're going to have an agent come in, but
Mhm.
do you have a checklist of questions so that you can audit the people who are building the thing for you? So really, I'm just teaching them the world of sports, the ugly parts that people don't talk about. Like, we have agents that come in and we
Mhm.
ask questions, and everybody talks about, in every sport, it's the first rounders, it's the people that get drafted, but we have the conversation of, what happens when your kid's projected to go in the first round and they're an undrafted free agent because you didn't make the right moves during their last year of collegiate eligibility. What happens if they get injured? What happens if the dream doesn't happen? What
Mhm.
happens if they fall from the third round to being an undrafted free agent? What happens if they don't get a call? What happens if you got to wait for minicamp? What do you know? What questions to ask your agent if no one's calling? So all of these unsexy things that people don't talk about, we talk about in our world. And
Wow.
for me, that's the part that I have a plethora of Tasha's in my community, and some of them, they're going to get their agent's license. They really are. I know me personally, I'll be at the sports agent boot camp in a couple of weeks in DC, where that's going to be run by diverse representation. But that's
Mhm.
just for learning. But I encourage them, don't, if you want to be an agent, I'm going to put you in places where you can be an agent, where you can learn how to be an agent. But yeah, they should all be good enough to manage, even if they don't.
I love it. That's awesome. I'm gonna move on. So Jamesetta, you have many hats, and one of them is being an NIL Brand Development Specialist. Could you tell us what is an NIL Brand Development Specialist, and what does a typical day look for you in this role?
So this is a truly like a God thing. I did not set out to do this. Remember, I told you that that parent education is a thing, missing gap. So if you go look out in the world of name, image, and likeness right now, there's one voice that's consistently missing, and that's parents.
Oh,
And
yeah.
there's only one group of people that has to deal with the consequences of NIL, whether they're good consequences or bad consequences. Only parents have to share in the consequences. If their kid doesn't do something right with taxes, the school is not going to provide an attorney. The school's not going to pay taxes. The kid's going to have to go home, and they're going to have to talk to mom and dad and figure that out. And so because there was no voice for parents, I've been following NIL for a long time, and I thought my son would have an opportunity. I just didn't work out that way. He graduated from college in May, and then California did their thing in September of 2019. But what I did is in 2021, when I was like, like from 2019 to 2021, I was like, surely the NCAA, somebody was going to like start, really educating parents. And I was in spaces, and I was like, wait, there's still no parents here. And so I just took everything that I knew about NIL and I put it into a course. And I said, okay, God, for the month of June of 2021, I'm going to teach this course on Thursdays at 8:00 for free. And then I'm going to let the NCAA do its thing. I'm still teaching that class 2 Thursdays a month for free. But what happened is I started explaining NIL to parents, really what it really is, business concepts, what it means to be a brand, and the fact that none of them are really brands, and how to move from being a business to a brand. And so I was explaining things, and then I had a group of parents who said, hey, we want you to help us launch businesses. And I did. And so it wasn't like I woke up one day and said, hey, I'm going to be a brand development specialist. I just set out to educate parents. And then they were like, hey, you're building a business. We want to see what you're doing. We're going to build businesses for our sons and daughters too. And so those businesses are quite a few of them. We had a couple who they said, after college they were good. And I have some that are, still moving and shaking, and their businesses are still up and running. So for me, a typical day is I'm always learning something new. I'm going to learn something new about NIL. I'm going to learn something new about branding. Right now, I'm learning what it means to be in the attention economy. I'm really trying to get a handle on, on the fact of what that means and what that looks like for my my families that I serve. I have started to reach out to businesses because I want to understand, what are you looking for? Why aren't you guys proactively reaching out to athletes in your cities and states? So I spend a lot of time being educated myself, and then putting that in curriculum. So I'm teaching parents, or I'm on the phone or doing a one-on-one. So my day's it's never the same, but it's always involved. I'm either learning something about what it means to pitch or build a brand or get people's attention. I'm learning something about content creation, or I'm making a relationship and I'm trying to understand what businesses are really looking for when it comes to hiring athletes and why they're not as proactive as they should be.
Wow, that's awesome. And you still doing you're still doing the classes free twice a month.
Yep. Thursdays at 8:00. I have one coming up this Thursday.
Wow, I want to join. I want to see what's going on. I'm very intrigued at what you're doing. So Jamesetta, how do you help athletes identify and shape their personal brands?
So I use a tool. I am a Dr. Eric Thomas certified extreme execution coach, and he developed a proprietary tool called the flight assessment. It's built on the same core science as a DISC. So when I say that I help athletes understand who they are and how they prefer to show up in the world, part of it is data driven with tools. And the other part is really helping them see that you're engaged in commerce. But just because you're engaged in commerce, that's what it means to be a business and to do business, doesn't mean that you're actually a brand. So in our world, the way that I teach it, they're all engaged in commerce. They're all businesses. They're every single one of them. They have a family business and they have an individual business, but they're not all brands, because brands, the way that I educate them is brands are recognizable symbols that generate an emotion. And if you are not a recognizable symbol, if they can't see your logo and there's like the swoosh, like it means something when you see the swoosh. So helping them really understand that just because the infrastructure of sports says that being a brand means you have a logo and an LLC, or you have some type of clothing, that's not what being a brand is. That might be a business. It engages in commerce. But if you're not a recognizable symbol that draws emotion, so a lot of my time is helping them understand, one, who are you outside of sports? How do you gain energy? How do you lose energy? Because the way that you identify with energy, gaining it, losing it, it's going to define how I allow you to move forward. An example would be if I know someone is introverted and they do not gain energy by being around people, I'm not going to set them up for a bunch of meet and greets, in-person events, because that's setting them up for failure.
Yeah.
I may say maybe once a month or twice a month, I'm going to give them sincere guidelines. But what you can do with the person who's introverted is typically words. They're very good. They don't mind words. They don't mind videos. When I say videos, like animation, pictures, anything that doesn't involve them in interacting with people.
But just their voice, just talking.
Yeah. So helping them understand, how do you actually prefer to receive energy? How do you get rid of it, or what energizes you and what drains you, so that we're creating a forward face and doing activities that actually really lean into how God created them. Even, what do you want to do 70 years from now? You're going to be an athlete for a very finite amount of time. Nobody's retiring from their sport and saying, let's go down to the Social Security office. So athletics has to be a pivot. You pivot into your sport for as long as God allows, and then you pivot outside of it. So forcing them to do the frustrating piece. And this is frustrating because most people are telling them, just focus on the game. If you focus on the game, everything else will take care of itself. And that is one of the biggest lies that are told to athletes, because if you focus on the game, everything else will not take care of itself. You don't have networking opportunities that just fall off the trees once you stop playing your sport. And so really focusing and making them think through, what do I like? What can I see myself doing 70 years from now? Can I even describe who I am without using sports in the description? That is a very unsexy place. And I can just say, most of my clients come from your Power 5, Power 4 schools. Other companies that are doing NIL stuff, they're not really forcing them to say, who did God create me to be? What am I going to build that if I am 75, this thing that I'm doing now is the foundation of what I'm going to still be doing at 70. So I spend a lot of time with athletes and with their parents. Think the family has a brand as well. Being very intentional about saying, what part of you does the public get to consume? Because what I've learned is that the public will consume every part of an athlete and their family if they let them. So even empowering them to understand that you as an athlete, you as a family, you get to decide what parts of you the public gets to see. And I call it consuming. Helping them even craft. Like, I have a person and they were like, well, the public only gets to see my car when I'm going to work out. where I work out, and my kitchen. That's it. They get no other part of me. They don't get my family. They don't get my living room. They don't get my bedroom. They get my kitchen because I want to talk about food, and they get working out. And that's it. And getting him to the place where he was okay saying, this is the boundary, and it's a hard boundary. That took a few months because most times they don't even understand that they can have a boundary. And so I just say that's really unsexy because it's really like no one likes it when I say, okay, tell me who you are, but don't use a relationship, don't mention sports, don't mention a career, and don't mention anything about your intelligence or academics.
That's hard for them to do. They don't know. They don't know who they are outside of all of the things that you took out.
And most of the times their parents don't know either.
Wow.
And so so it's really unsexy because nobody's doing that. Like, I won't say no one, but very few people are doing that, right? And so it's unsexy when everyone else is saying, well, just play. And if you play, then everything else is going to come. That's not how that works most of the time.
No, you need the unsexy to get to the sexy sometimes. So I totally get it. Last question, Jamesetta, can an athlete with a small social media following still build a profitable NIL brand?
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the biggest misconceptions is that you actually have to have a lot of followers or any followers. And I would say if you're a college athlete and you're listening to this, and even a high school athlete. So in my opinion, every athlete, whether they are high school or college or pro, should be making at least $500 to $1,000 a month based on their athletic name, image, and likeness without even a deal or just utilizing social media. And here's like some things that they don't do. They don't even like put out on social media, the high school athlete that's a freshman that has made the varsity team. That kid does not put out on social media and say, hey, if you're in middle school and you want to learn how to make the freshman team how to make the varsity team as a freshman, I have 10 slots available. We're going to meet once a week as a group for, my little 10 people for $25. They don't even use social media to do that, to say, hey, I have knowledge. I'm going to teach you how to do that. They do not. And you don't have to have a lot of followers. You don't have to have any followers to do that, because you can go if you're a high school kid, you can go right back to the middle school that you just left and make a public appearance, put a flyer up. But in the world of social media, they have something called nano influencers, micro influencers, and macro influencers. And so I would be considered a man. I have less than, I think maybe 1,500 followers on Instagram. We won't do Facebook. And I get offered to do things. I get offers all the time. I don't accept them, but it's because I have engagement of my followers. I'm not always telling people to follow me, but I am producing quality content, and people will leave comments, they will share it, or they will save it. And in the attention economy, the match numbers are 1 in 3. Can you get somebody to stop for 1 second, and can you hold their attention for 3 seconds? A like does not take very long, but to get someone to leave a comment, to get someone to share, to get someone to save, those are the things. And you don't have to have a lot of followers to get engagement, but what you do have to do is, and we're just speaking strictly social media, you have to start using social media as a neighborhood. It's your digital neighborhood. And whenever you post, it's like telling your neighbors your home. One of the things that athletes fail to do is understand how much people really want to know about them, and at least consistently tell your neighborhood that you're home. Do something simple like on Sunday, say, I'm looking for new songs on my playlist. Leave a comment with some songs that you're listening to. And then on Friday, you can say, hey, y'all, these are the songs that y'all introduced me to. That's not deep. But people want to, in my Apple Music, there's a whole section that's sports. And it's curated playlists for different athletes. So like I try to tell people, uh, if you're an athlete, they want to know everything about you. They want to know what you eat. They want to know what you wear. They want to know where you go. They want to know what you're listening to. So the key critical mistake that athletes make is they don't treat social media like a tool. They don't treat it like a neighborhood where they go home consistently. And you don't gotta say a lot when you get home, but you do have to say something. And you want to say it predictably at the same time. Like your podcast probably airs predictably at the same time. That's your wherever you put your podcast, that's your internet neighborhood, your digital neighborhood, and you tell your neighbors, your listeners, oh, I'm going to be home at this day and this time. And what do? You come home and you interact with them. And so most athletes, they see social media as, oh, I'm going to play here. Well, no, you don't want to play here. You do want to play here, but you really don't. You want to treat it as a tool. And so in my experience personally, I know people who have as little as 700 followers and they make an extra $3,000, $4,000 a month because those 700 followers, they rock with that person. They're doing the three things. They're sharing, they're saving, they're commenting. And this is where athletes being told, well, if you play well, everything else is going to happen. No, you can play well. And that doesn't mean that people are going to treat your digital neighborhood like a neighborhood. You're telling your neighbors that you're never home because you won't post. You won't interact with them.
I love it. You've taught me something. What I got to do with my social media. Thank you, Jamesetta. Thank you so much for joining me today. However, before we leave, we play a little game called What You Know. And that's a way for the listeners and myself to get to know the guests better. I'll ask you a few questions and you choose the best one. They're multiple choice. I used to have it a little harder. You need to have more. So I have multiple choice now. So we're going to be doing NIL deals. Doesn't mean you know everything. You got multiple choice. So it's all good. So this player is estimated to be one of the highest earning college basketball players for NIL deals. She signed NIL deals with brands such as Puma, Meta, JBL, and Taco Bell. In December 2024, she became the second college athlete to sign an NIL deal and receive an equity stake in women's 3-on-3 basketball league. Is that Paige Beckers, Juju Watkins, Madison Booker, or Flange Johnson?
Flange Johnson, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct. Next one, she's known for her strong social media presence with millions of followers on Instagram and TikTok. She even has a Nike Player Edition shoe and was one of the first college athletes to sign an NIL deal with Gatorade. She was the number 1 WNBA drafted to the Dallas Wings. Was that Juju Watkins, Paige Beckers, Haley, or Hannah Cavender?
That is Paige Buckets.
That is correct. Next, she is a notable college basketball player with significant NIL earnings exceeding $700,000. She's known for securing deals with major brands like Nike, Gatorade, Degree. Her NIL valuation and diverse endorsements have made her a leading figure in the NIL era for women's basketball. Is that Angel Reese, Juju Watkins, Cody McMahon, or Audie Crooks?
Oh my gosh. I want to say Audie Crooks, but I could be wrong on this one. But I'm going to go on a limb and say Audie Crooks.
Juju Watkins.
Juju's only at 700,000? Okay, you taught me something because I would have thought she was more.
I thought she would have more. Yeah, exactly.
She does a makeup brand that my girls just love.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm a Fenty girl, and we'll talk about that later. His deal has made him one of the highest paid college athletes. He has a significant NIL valuation estimated at $6.5 million by On3. He's also made headlines by signing NIL deals with major brands like Nike, Gatorade, and Google. He's making more than his soon-to-be NFL contract. Is it Travis Hunter, Cam Ward, Shiloh Sanders, or Ashton Genty?
Travis Hunter.
Listen to what I said. He's making more with his NIL deal than his soon-to-be NFL contract.
His soon-to-be NFL contract. Okay, and who are my choices?
Travis, Cam Ward, Shiloh Sanders, or Ashton Genty.
Okay, tell me the deals again.
Gatorade, Nike, and Google.
Gatorade, Nike, and Google. Oh my gosh. Of those, I'm gonna say Shiloh because he's the least. It's Shiloh.
Yeah, he's making his NIL deal is more than his contract.
Yeah, I thought about that. Soon to be. That's what.
So yeah. I think I got two more. This star guard for the Texas Longhorn women's basketball team has a strong NIL profile. She is a highly ranked recruit. Excuse me. With multiple national and international accolades, including being a 3-time USA basketball gold medalist. She has also secured several NIL deals, including one with Cava Restaurant. Is that Lauren Bates, Hannah Hidalgo, Madison Booker, or Anissa Morrow?
Madison Booker.
Correct. Maddie B. She was on the show a few weeks ago. Sweet kid. Last one.
Who's adorable?
I love her. Last one, a WNBA player for the Washington Mystics, is also a college basketball player who previously played for Stanford and USC. She is known for having a high NIL value, estimated at $700,000 according to a Pro Basketball Network article, and On3 listed her as having the 7th highest NIL value among forwards in college basketball. Is it Kiki Arifin, Roy Harmon, Ayoka Lee, or Caitlin Clark?
It's Kiki Irvin.
That is correct. Thank you so much.
You got me because I just knew Juju was over $1 million.
You know what? She probably is. That probably was old. I got it from 2025, so it stays current. It gets.
Yeah, but you never know. It fluctuates all the time.
Yeah, that's true. So, Jamesetta, tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media, as well as helping the moms learning about your free classes. What, twice a month or once a month? Yeah.
So, if you want to find me, I am on Threads, Twitter, and Instagram at sports. It's at sports, plural sports, SPORTS_mom, MOM _ the letter U. On Facebook, I am Sports Mom University. Every Thursday at 6:00, I do a podcast. It's called the Sports Mom University Podcast, and we profile some business aspect of sports. And that's live streamed on Facebook right now. This week on Thursday, we will be talking about preparing for the laugh period. And I'm gonna probably every week I make somebody upset because the truth is the truth is the truth. And I teach a class. It's called Name, Image, and Likeness from a Sports Mom's Perspective, and I'm the sports mom. And it is free. I teach at least 2 Thursdays every month. So there was a class on the 1st, which was, May 1st was a Thursday. And then a class this Thursday coming up on the 15th. It's at 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, and then of course 2 weeks later. So every 2 weeks, I teach one class. This particular class is always free and open to the public. And I tell people, if you love athletes or if you're a parent of an athlete and you want to understand what NIL truly is, come to class. And I tell people they can come as often as they like. I just want them to understand the concepts. I give away things that for me are life-giving. I would have wanted someone to tell me all the mistakes that I was, or the major mistakes that I needed to avoid to make sure my child's eligibility is preserved. And so we cover the legal and statutory hierarchy of name, image, and likeness in that class.
That's awesome. And I'm going to get the information from you offline regarding this Thursday show, so I can put it on my social media platforms. And speaking of that, guys, please follow me at She Say Sports on Facebook, She Say Sports 23 on Instagram, and please subscribe to our YouTube page, She Say Sports. Well, that's my show for today. Until next time, this is Sonia with She Say Sports.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
She say, sports. She say, sports.